Welcome back. So, we are again here for the second session on digital image processing, where we will basically see image enhancement techniques. So, the enhancement techniques we will be seeing what is basically contrast enhancement, spatial enhancement, and image transformations. That is three different type of enhancements. Now, first of all, what is image enhancement and why we should do it? Image enhancement is altering an image to change its impact on the viewer. That means to alter an image in such a way that objects become much more easier to interpret. That means to easier to interpret visually, visual interpretation, for better visual interpretation and understanding of the image. So we can say that the enhancement techniques are basically process of making an image more interpretable for a particular application. Now, why we should do it? Because in many raw images, the information is sufficient for digital analysis, sufficient for doing classification, for extracting information. But the information is inadequate for visual image interpretation. That means enhancement techniques are mainly done for the main purpose of visual image interpretation. And the enhancement techniques should be done only after the first step is done, that is image pre-processing. That means after you have removed all radiometric and geometric errors. Enhancement can be done temporarily or it can be done permanently on an image. But please remember, if you do an enhancement technique permanently, that means if you modify the values permanently, you lose your original signature. So I always advise to do the enhancement techniques first temporarily and then permanently onto a new file. Now there are three basic categories of enhancements which are called as if you talk in terms of computer engineering, computer vision, it is point operations, local operations, and image transformations. If you talk specifically related to remote sensing data, we can call them radiometric enhancement, spatial enhancement, and spectral enhancement. So, what are these three basic categories? Now, enhancement means our image, when it is made up of digital numbers, enhancement means you are simply modifying that number. You are changing the digital value, you are changing the radiometry. So point operation is when you change the pixel value, the DN value of a particular pixel independently. Independently using any mathematical, statistical, trigonometrical criteria, it is called as point operation. You are changing a point. You have a point value and you're modifying that point value. It is point operations. If you see some of the softwares, image processing softwares, remote sensing specific, they call it radiometric enhancement. These point operations bring out contrast in the imagery, so they're also called as contrast enhancement techniques. The point operations, radiometric enhancement, or contrast enhancements are one and the same technique. The second category of enhancement is modification of pixel value not independently. The point value is not the modified independently, but the point value is modified based on its surrounding pixels, based on its neighboring pixels, and this is called as spatial enhancement. Now both point operations and local operations are done on a single layer of image, that means on a single band of data. Whereas image transformation, the third category of image enhancement techniques, is modifying the point value, is modifying the pixel value not only based on its neighbors, but modifying the pixel value on multiple band basis. That means pixel value of the same location in more than one band. So this is the basic difference in the three categories of enhancement: point or radiometric, spatial enhancement, which is modifying the pixel values based on surroundings or local operations, and image transformations or spectral enhancement, where we modify the pixel value based on the pixel value at the same location in multiple bands, either of the same date or of a different date data sets. Enhancement. So we will see these three categories one by one. We will start with the first one, which is radiometric enhancement or contrast enhancement or point operation. So we say that the radiometric enhancement or contrast enhancement is used to increase the contrast in the image. So what is contrast in the image? All of us understand contrast when we go to a film theater to see a movie, which now in lockdown days is impossible. But when we used to go in happier times in a movie hall, it was observed that the screen on which the image is displayed, on which when we are seeing the movie, that was very well lit, and we the audience were sitting in the audience section, which was very dark, right? So the lights were switched off in the audience section and the screen was well lit. So what were they trying to do? They were trying to increase the maximum contrast between the object, which was the screen, and the background, which was the audience. Similarly, there is a contrast in each image also. Now, in image is made up of digital numbers. So that is the average amount of difference between the DN values of object in an image and that of its surrounding. Like for example, if I'm talking about a water body, so it's the DN values of contrast in the water body as related to its background, right? That means the objects which are surrounding it. So this this difference is basically the difference in gray level values, which will indicate how sharp an image looks, how washed out an image looks. So if I have to define it mathematically in terms of digital numbers, we know my digital numbers are DN values, intensities. So I can say it is a ratio of maximum DN value to minimum DN value, or ratio of maximum intensity to minimum intensity. I can call it DN, I can call it brightness value, BV, or anything. So larger this ratio, when I'm saying a ratio, larger this ratio, it's more easy to interpret the image. So that is contrast in an image, ratio of maximum to minimum DN values. Now, what are the reasons that a satellite image has low contrast? There are three reasons. The third one, which I have listed here, atmospheric scattering, that we have already discussed in the previous session. That is, you know that when the lower wavelengths are scattered, they add a component to the DN value, thereby reducing the contrast, haze. So the atmospheric scattering is one of the reason for the scene, for your satellite image having low contrast. So you need to remove the haze to have a better contrast in the imagery. We had a slide for haze correction in the previous session. Now the other two reasons are scene itself has a low contrast ratio. Now what do I mean by scene itself has low contrast ratio? Now you see that when we are capturing the digital image by a sensor, the sensor and satellite and sensor have certain limitations in terms of the area, right? So the total area that is covered in one scene is the swath of the satellite. So that swath may be, like for example, for some sensors 11 kilometer by 11 kilometer, 24 kilometer by 24 kilometers, or different scene sizes depending upon the swath of the sensor. Now in that area, in that scene, the objects that are making up the scene may have similar reflectances. They do not have a scene would have maximum contrast when there is an object which does not reflect any energy, zero, and the maximum contrast when the object, there is some other object also which is reflecting total energy. So that means 0 to 255 if I talk about 8-bit, otherwise the minimum quantization and the maximum quantization. So these are optimum conditions, and in a particular area it's not possible that you have objects which either do not reflect any energy or which reflect total energy. So it's not using the entire bandwidth, it's not using the entire range of the quantization level. That is what I mean by scene itself has low contrast ratio, that the objects are reflecting similarly. The second reason, or in fact the one we are discussing, is the third, because we have already discussed the third reason first. Sensitivity of detectors. Detectors, before being flown on board the satellite, they are calibrated to record a range of values. And as we have discussed in the previous session, the detector's sensitivity may shift towards lower or higher value over time after as they are being launched. So these are the reasons for low contrast of a satellite image. Now, okay, so then what to do? We have an image with low contrast. Now, the human nature is to remove the error, to change the contrast of the image by using some operation. Like for example, here is the image. In the previous session, if you remember, I have in 2-3 places I have shown you a satellite image, a false color composite image. I say this is the same composite image, but now here nothing is visible, all is black. And now if you are familiar with this is the histogram of the satellite image. I have used here infrared, green and the blue band. So infrared band has values from 0 to 58 or 59, whatever is being shown here, 58. So these are the range of values, and you can see the histogram, the plot. The red one indicates the mean. That means values are there in the infrared band, values are there in the green, and values are also there in the blue. So still nothing is visible. Why? Because the monitor sensitivity is 8-bit. That means 8 bits for red, 8 bits for green, 8 bits for blue. 0 to 55 for red, 0 to 55 for green, 0 to 55 for blue. But here that is going into a very narrow range, 0 to 58, 0 to 34, 0 to 54. So very narrow range of DN values. That, and if my monitor is 0 to 255, so normally 0 will be or 0 will be no energy reflectance, 0 black color. 255 total bright intensity, white color. And if I'm talking about grayscale, so 120 around 127 is the middle where it will be gray. So that means if I look at all the three individual, they are falling in the dark portion of the histogram, and that is why nothing is visible. So what is needed? It is needed to contrast stretch it, to stretch the image, basically to stretch this image so that the contrast improves, and that is why we call it contrast stretch. So the ideal situation would be that whatever is this range of values, 0 to 54 or 0 to 34 or 0 to 59, pull it between 0 to 55, because that is the range of my display device. My monitor is sensitive to 8 bits for green, 8 bits for blue, 8 bits for red, and then it will generate 16.7 million colors. So to do that, I need to stretch this data from 0 to 255. This is called as contrast enhancement. So this was the image which I've shown in my previous sessions also. And here you can see, now you can interpret all objects, forest cover, river bed, water body, agriculture area, urban area, and so on. So this is the reason that why we need to do contrast stretching on a remote sensing data, even if there is no radiometric, no geometric error present in the image. So what is then, now how can we define contrast enhancement? We have done it in the previous slide. So contrast enhancement is expanding the original values to make total use of the display device range. So my sensitivity of display device is from 8 bits for red, 8 for green, 8 for blue. So I want to use the full display. So I expand this input image, each band, to this full range. So density values are pulled apart, fitted between 0 to 55, and it increases the contrast between two areas having nearly similar reflectances. Right? So we are able to discriminate the areas having small differences in DN value. So contrast enhancement, there are two types now. The previous one which we did was linear. Right? Linear. We linearly pulled apart the input and output data values following a linear relationship. Then there could get the second category of enhancement is non-linear, where input and output data values are related via transformation function f, which could be mathematical, statistical, trigonometric. So the linear contrast one method we have seen, the lowest DN value is put to the 0 of the monitor. The highest DN value is put to the maximum of the monitor, which is 255, and all the values in between are simply linearly stretched between these two extremes. So if you want to see it as a transfer function, as a mathematical this thing, you can use equation of a line, and the smallest input DN value is put to the smallest output gray shade. The maximum DN value in the input is put to the maximum of the monitor, which is 255, and all other values are linearly distributed between these two extremes using the equation of a line, y is equal to ax plus b. So if this was my original image, which is low contrast, all objects are not very clearly interpretable. When I stretch it between 0 to 255, now please remember that this is a FCC. It's a false color composite of 3 bands, one displayed in red, one in green, and one in blue. So all the 3 are done contrast enhancement independently. That means each layer is contrast stretched in its own range, red separately, green separately, blue separately, and then it is overlaid, and we see the contrast enhanced false color composite in the 3 layers where you see discrimination between different objects. So this is the first category of enhancement, contrast enhancement. In contrast enhancement also linear contrast enhancement following the equation of a line. Now I said the second category of enhancement is non-linear stretch, where I use this formula y is equal to fx, where this function transformation function is non-linear. So it could, if non-linear means it could be logarithmic, it could be any root, square root, cube root, fourth root, fifth root, and so on, or it could be powers, square, cube, fourth power, fifth power, and so on. So log and inverse log. So I can have any mathematical function, and I can also have statistical function, I can also have trigonometrical function. So here I have depicted the combined transformation function for a non-linear stretch. Non-linear stretch, you see that this is identity. That means whatever is input, that is output. There is no stretching here at all. Non-linear stretch would occur in this either way. Like for example, I have here listed the logarithmic stretch. So if I want to do logarithmic stretch on my data, the input DN values, I first find the log of the input DN values. And in the second step, which is in fact the default step after all the image processing operations, is rescaling. So after I have taken the log of the input values, I rescale the values to the range of the display device. So that means I rescale my values between 0 to 255. And if I do the logarithmic stretch, if you can see that if this is my half of the histogram, the logarithmic stretch is enhancing my low DN values here. If this is the first half, so log values from 0 maybe up to 200. So 0 to 127 are enhanced between 0 to 200, for example, in the logarithmic stretch. And vice versa is inverse log, where it will enhance the higher DN values. So that means why we do non-linear stretch. Linear stretching is complete overall contrast enhancement. Linear stretch, logarithmic stretching or non-linear stretching is enhancing contrast in one range at the expense of contrast reduction in the other range. For example, if I use log stretching, I am enhancing the contrast in the lower DN values at the expense of contrast reduction in the higher DN values. So I do non-linear stretching based upon my object of interest. If I have a water body which has very low DN values, I use a enhancement technique which enhances those low. If I have a forest or a snow cover and I use a technique where it enhances the higher DN values. So now you can see that the roots will enhance the lower DN values, the powers will enhance the higher DN values. So accordingly, you can choose a enhancement technique and apply on your data on your object of interest. Now, I also mentioned that y is equal to fx. This transformation function could be mathematical, like previous slide, logarithmic, square, square root, cube, cube root, or statistical. So histogram equalization is one of the very commonly used technique, statistical technique, to improve the overall contrast range. Now the name indicates what we are doing in this. The histogram of the original image is redistributed so that all DN values have same frequency. They have same population density. Now here you can see that if I show the histogram, this histogram is skewed to one side. There are certain DN values having high frequency, certain DN values having very low frequency. So now in this histogram equalization technique, this histogram is redistributed so that all there is near equal reflectance. So this is done by grouping the DN values which have low frequency. Grouping the DN values which have low frequency, and mostly low frequency occurs in the tails, either in the upper tail or lower tail or both the tails, right? And the normally peaks are highly populated. So normally we say that the histogram equalization technique increases the contrast in the populated range at the expense of contrast reduction in the tails, because we are grouping the DN values in the tails. And it is also used for overall contrast enhancement. Like for example here, this was my original image. The contrast was not optimal. All objects were not very clearly identifiable. This is the corresponding histogram for the data. And for some area, it is band 4, having values, a small range of values between 12 to 43. So you can see the values are nearly similarly reflecting. Now linear stretch will simply pull the values apart. It will not change the shape of the histogram. It is only putting a separation, and you can see that the objects, even in the water bodies, the sediments and all, these objects have become interpretable, and this contrast has improved. Histogram equalization, it increases the contrast in the most populated range. So the brighter areas you see, they become more brighter, and the contrast between the dark and the bright portion has increased. Histogram equalization. So this is the comparison of radiometric enhancement, the for contrast enhancement, linear and non-linear contrast enhancement techniques. Okay. Now with this we have covered the first enhancement type, that is point operations or contrast enhancements or radiometric enhancement. Now we are coming to the second category of enhancement, which is local operation or spatial enhancement. Now I also mentioned that local operations means a DN value is modified based on its neighboring pixel values. And this local operation is also called as filtering, and not simple filtering, it is spatial filtering. But the analogy is similar to the filtering that we use in everyday life. Like for example, nowadays all of us are using this mask to filter out what? To filter out that virus, so that it protects us from the COVID, right? So we are filtering out the unwanted information. We don't want the virus to enter into our system. So we are stopping it, we are blocking it by using this mask. So similarly in image processing, we can do filtering, and in filtering what we do, we block certain information which we do not require, and we'll allow the other information that we want to pass through, that we want to use it. So basically spatial filtering, we are using it for enhancing certain features. Now for understanding spatial frequency, I have to introduce a new term called as spatial frequency. All of you are familiar with frequency, number of occurrences of a particular variable, right? So now, but that frequency is different, and now I want to talk about a new term called as spatial frequency, where spatial, it's related to your location. So if when I have an image, my image is made up of number. So when the DN values are changing, going from one pixel to another, my DN value can remain same. If first pixel has a value 10, the second pixel also has a value 10, there is no change in DN value. So I say it has a spatial frequency of 0. There is no change in the DN value going from one pixel to another. Then the second case can be the value changes gradually. From 10, next pixel goes 15, from next pixel goes 20, and gradually it changes over time, over an area. So this is called low frequency details in an image, where the DN values are changing very gradually. And high frequencies would be when the DN values going from one pixel to another, there is sudden change, there is drastic change, dramatic change. So these are high frequency details in the area. So this is a new term which I've introduced now here, spatial frequency. All of us are familiar with simple frequency. So now this concept is important for filtering. Now in filtering, I am blocking certain frequencies which I don't require. Either I block low frequencies in the image, I do not allow low frequencies to pass through my filter or my mask, or I allow only high frequencies to pass through it. And why do we do it? We do it to increase the analyst ability to discriminate detail. I use it for enhancing certain features. I use it for removal of noise. In doing so, I receive what? Smoothing of image. I receive certain information which I cannot see in single band. So that is the reason I do filtering. Okay, to filter out COVID, we are relying on this mask. But to filter an image, we have a small sub-image or filters, which are basically algorithms for filtering. Right? So they are basically small window, small sub-images of square shaped and square size, that is 3 by 3, 5 by 5, 7 by 7, and 9 by 9. And this mask is filled with some constants called as weights which are given to the mask, and this mask can be called as a window mask, or you will hear terms called as kernel. You will also hear term called as convolution mask. And then the filtering technique, the spatial filtering technique, is also called as convolution. Those of you who are from computer science engineering or electronics and communication, and you have done digital signal processing and all, you are familiar with this term convolution. In our context, in remote sensing images or in this thing, we will say that it is process of evaluating the weighted neighboring pixels around a central location in the image. Remember the definition of local operations or definition of spatial enhancement? We said it is modification of a pixel value based on its neighbors. So if you see, it is the same terms which I am explaining, process of evaluating the weighted neighbors around a particular central pixel. And how it is done, it is written here, but I will show you in the next slide with the help of images. I will not read out this. You can read out later, because I will show you this with the help of the image next. So here I have an input image which is made up of DN values arranged in a matrix form. And if you remember, I said the contrast enhancement and local operations are done one band at a time. So this is my single band data. And I have a filter, 3 by 3 filter with some mask constants, C1, C2, C3. I can assume them, all of them, as 1 or some different values also. How to get these values, we'll also discuss that. So now in the first thing, we take this mask and place it over first part of the image. I've taken this mask and placed over this part of the image, and that is what I have written here. Mask window is placed over the part of the image, and then a convolution formula is applied. So I have placed the mask over the one part of the image, if you see here, and the convolution formula is applied. Convolution formula, what is convolution formula now? If you see, when I have placed this mask over here, right, if I zoom it here, please see here, this is when I place the mask had constant C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, C6, C7, C8, C9. And there were dn values behind it. In the previous slide, if you see, there were dn values 10, 15, 20, 15, 12, 12, and so on. So these were the values. Now I'm denoting them by a general value because I have to show you the formula. So constant and brightness value in the first location, second location, third location. Now you see the central value. Yeah, this is the central pixel. Now in convolution, we will compute a new value based on these all pixels and compute a new value for this central pixel. And that is why we define convolution as process of weighted evaluation of a central location, right? Or modifying a pixel value based on its neighbors. So the convolution formula, if you see, the new value for the central pixel is constant 1 multiplied by brightness value 1, constant 1 with the brightness value 1, constant 2 is multiplied with brightness value 2, constant 3 is multiplied by brightness value 3, and so on for all the 9 pixels and added together. The entire thing is divided by the sum of the constants. You see, sigma ci, sum of the constants. This is my convolution formula. Corresponding constant is multiplied by the corresponding brightness value, added together and divided by the sum of the constants, which I have written in the previous slide. You can see here the convolution formula. Now the central pixel value is replaced by this new value in the output file. And then the window is shifted by 1 pixel to the right. Window is shifted by 1 pixel to the right. This becomes my central pixel. I repeat the steps. I calculate the new value for this central pixel, put it in the output file, again keep on shifting till I can compute this last location for the central pixel. This is called as convolution technique. This is called as convolution technique. Window is shifted by 1 pixel and the procedure is repeated for the entire image. Right? So now this is the general filtering technique, and we said that the constants of the mask depend upon the type of filtering we want to do. In the previous slides, we have discussed that my image has low frequency details and my image has high frequency details. I can either block all the low frequencies and allow only high frequencies to pass through them, or vice versa. So this is the vice versa, that is low pass filtering, where I am blocking all the high frequencies. Now high frequencies means dramatic changes, right, occurring at the borders. So this low pass filtering will block all the high frequencies and it will allow only smoother details to pass through it. So it is used for removal of noise, and mean, median and mode are the 3 mainly used low pass filters, which are used for removal of noise, which are used for removing particularly salt and pepper type of noise, and which are used for smoothing the image. But in doing so, it will blur the images at the edges because my high frequencies are at the edges. You are removing the edges, you are blurring the edges, so it will appear that as if the image has been blurred. But the main purpose why low pass filtering is done is for removal of noise. Then high pass filtering will allow only high frequencies to pass through it. It will block all the low frequencies. Right? So that means high frequencies occur at the boundaries. That means high pass filtering is done for edge detection and edge enhancement. And you know edge, what I mean by edge, that means the DN values where transition takes place from one class to other. The edges, locations where we have a boundary. So we are, in fact, we are highlighting boundaries. Right? So then the most commonly high pass filter which is used is Laplace high pass filter, Laplace edge detectors, which is an omnidirectional filter which will enhance or which will detect edges in all directions. So my original image, the same image which I've been showing in the earlier. So this is 3x3 Laplace filter. Then the beauty of this high pass filters is that you can do them to enhance filters, or you can use it to enhance edges or detect edges in certain directions. So you can modify the filters based on the direction that you want to enhance. For example, a horizontal filter to enhance horizontal edges, vertical filter, or forward or backward diagonal. Now, the how the coefficients of these masks are derived is out of the scope of this lecture, but for those of you who are from mathematics background, let me just tell you, they are, as the name suggests, these constants are derived based on the Laplace double differentiation, right? So these are enhancement. For you, if you are using it as an application person, you will find a large number of library of low pass as well as high pass filters available in each of the software's library where you can use it. Right? Need not design your own constants and masks. The last component of enhancement techniques, transformations. Right. So now, as the name suggests, it will involve manipulation of many bands of data, which can be from a single multispectral image, that means number of bands of a single multispectral image, or same band from image captured at two different times, that means multispectral data or multi-temporal data. So the concept is same. Either way, we will generate a new image after we have transformed. Right. So now if we have two bands of multispectral data, the most common transform which can be applied to the multispectral data is division. Right? Though we can do addition, subtraction, multiplication, but it has been observed that the mathematical technique, if I divide one band of data versus the another band, this is the most common technique and which gives very useful results. So what is this technique? I have two bands data. I divide them pixel by pixel. Right? This is general notation that band 1 values are divided by band 2 values on a pixel by pixel basis, not the average of band 1 divided by average of band 2. Corresponding pixel is divided by another corresponding pixel, and result is stored in a new image in the same location. And then it is rescaled between 0 to 55 using the linear stretching formula. So this technique or image division, it is very popular technique called as band ratioing. So this is the mathematical notation, that means brightness value at row I, column j in k band of imagery is divided by the same pixel at location I, column j, and in L band, that is second band of imagery, result is stored in the same location ij in a new image called as ratioed image. Right? So that this is the explanation for that, whatever only spoken. So this is band ratioing, a very, very, very popular technique which helps you to interpret an image. If you are interpreting the two bands, band 1 and band 2, separately, you may not decipher that the unique information if you are looking at them is independently. But when you do ratio, you may extract certain meaningful information. Let's see how. Right? So, reasons why you want to do band ratioing, or what are the applications of band ratioing? The band ratioing is done to reduce the effect of variable illumination, differential illumination. Due to different topography, you have different illumination conditions, which will hamper your ability to interpret the correct, identify similar surface materials at two sides of the differential topography. How? Let's see with an example. Okay, so very common example which is given. Assume this is a hillock. For all of you who are familiar with our geography, we are located in Dehradun and our Mussoorie is nearby. So let's assume this is Mussoorie, right? So I have gone to a Mussoorie hill, and on two sides of Mussoorie, it is the same forest cover. If you see, let's say if there is coniferous and deciduous on one side, and also coniferous and deciduous on other side of the hillock, Mussoorie. Now this side is well lit, and obviously if it's a hill, this side is coming under shadow. So variable topographic, due to different topography, slope aspect, different illumination. Now what is happening on the image? The image is having different brightness value for the same land use. For coniferous or deciduous, any example that I take, in sunlight the value is different and in shadow the value is different. If it's the same object, it should have the same value, but this difference in value is due to the differential illumination because of topography. Same happens in the second band. So you interpret that these are two different objects, whereas it's the same land cover, same deciduous forest. But when you take the ratio of one band over the other, the ratio values are nearly identical, and in the ratioed image, you may interpret that these are not two different objects, but it is the same object. So this is the reason that the different topographic conditions, illumination conditions, they hamper your ability to identify similar surface materials. So ratio can be done to remove the effect of such environmental conditions. And now, which two bands you should ratio? One, we have said band A versus band B. Now, what is band A? What is band B? So they are band of in different spectral ranges. If you see, have seen, this is the spectral reflectance curve of different earth cover features. And let's say I don't discuss all the objects. Let's discuss three major cover earth surface covers: water, vegetation, and soil. You know, water does not reflect infrared. It has very small reflectance, that too only in the visible portion, right? Vegetation has higher reflectance than water in the visible portion. There is a peak in the green, there is a dip in the red, and very high reflectance in the red. Soil has considerably increasing reflectance throughout the spectrum, right? It has more than water and vegetation in the visible portion and less than vegetation in the infrared. Now, how to decide which two bands to ratio? Suppose I want to highlight vegetation. So I should see where is the maximum slope that is occurring in the vegetation. Excuse me. Vegetation has a very high reflectance in the infrared, which is band 4 of a particular satellite, and it has a dip in the red band. So this is the maximum slope. So we should exploit this slope. So divide the band 4 values by the band 3 values to highlight vegetation. In doing so, the other land cover features also get differentiated. You see that if I have band 4 divided by band 3, my vegetation will have very high values. Soil has near similar reflectance. Ratio values will be near to 1. Water has no reflectance in infrared. You divide by any value in red, it will be 0. So your three major land cover features will get separated by simple band ratioing of infrared band divided by red band. And this is a very popular ratio called as ratio vegetation index. So vegetation index, or any index if you say, it is a transformation which will tell you how much fraction or how much portion of a vegetation is there in that pixel if I talk about vegetation indices. So in one particular pixel, how much is the amount of vegetation? So that is vegetation index. If I want to calculate water index, how much is the component of water in one pixel? So that is water index. So now this example which I gave you, infrared divided by red band, it's a very popular ratio called as ratio vegetation index, which is infrared band divided by red band. So you see infrared band divided by red band for forest, it reflects, the forest appears very bright, right? The water body, which is black here, you divide it by any value in red, it remains black. Agriculture area which was gray, in both the same case almost similar reflectance, remains gray. So three major land covers are separated in simple ratio vegetation index. And a very popular ratio ratio which is normalized differential vegetation index, NDVI, is it's for changing this equation little bit. Infrared minus red divided by infrared plus red, it is a very popular index used for estimating vegetation fraction in a particular pixel, right? That is so based similar to normalized differential vegetation index. One example which I have given, the different wavelength intervals depending upon how different features reflect in different wavelength features, like water or soil or snow. You can find out different ratios, you can find out ratios for different minerals and so on, by taking simple ratio and simple indices. If you see the literature, you will find a large number of indices. Like I have shown you NDVI, there is normalized differential water index, normalized differential built-up index, using different spectral ranges where the slope of these features are used to enhance that particular feature. So that those with examples will also be covered in different application sessions. So this is the first example of image transformation, which is indices. The second example of image transformation is a technique called as principal component analysis. Now, principal component analysis is a technique to transform a highly correlated data set into an uncorrelated data set. We know that if I have a data set, if I plot it one band versus another, I may get positive correlation or a negative correlation, positive correlation, and if the data is spread, there is no correlation. So this is the example which I have taken of my particular data, the satellite image which I have been showing you throughout. So this is band 1 versus band 2, and you can see there is a very tight ellipse. It's a very highly positive correlated data, and I want to uncorrelate it using the technique called as principal component analysis. So I do this technique by transforming the linear transformation that corresponds to translation and rotation of the original axis. Let's see with the help of example. So this was my highly correlated data. Now band 1 versus band 2. So band 1 has a mean, band 2 has a mean. I plot its intersection, and then I translate this intersection, the origin of the coordinate system, to this new location. So I've translated this origin to here, and second step, I rotate it. I rotate the shifted x-axis by an angle theta, so that it lies along the major axis of the ellipse where there is maximum correlation, right? So I shift it. By virtue of orthogonal system, these were perpendicular to each other. The band 2 also gets rotated, so that if this data was perfect ellipse, let's say, so it lies along the minor axis of the ellipse. So the first one is major axis of the ellipse, maximum amount of information. The second one, perpendicular to it, is the next amount of information. So we say this is the axis of the first principal component after it has been rotated, and this is the axis of the second principal component after it has been rotated. Now see that the dn values were in the original coordinate system, band 1 values versus band 2 values. If I reproject them, that means multiply each dn value by the x component rotation and the y component rotation, my new spread is like this. So then after I have multiplied with the x component rotation and the y component rotation, my dn values get spread, the data becomes uncorrelated. Now we call them principal component 1 and principal component 2. So this is principal component analysis technique to transform this highly correlated data set into uncorrelated data set. Now this is graphically I have shown you. For those of you who have a mathematics background, the axis, we compute the axis using eigenvalues. We compute the new dn values using the eigenvectors. So transformation is using eigenvalues and eigenvectors. But those of you who are not from mathematics background, please don't get confused. You will only be using the software to convert your raw 4-band data into 4 principal components, and you will be analyzing the 4 components. Like for example, the satellite image which I showed you throughout, that it had 4 bands from LIS2D sensor, and we applied principal component analysis technique. So I got 4 principal components. Now the principal component analysis technique will transform it into uncorrelated data set. So the first principal component will have maximum amount of information, right? And it will simulate a panchromatic imagery. The second principal component, which was orthogonal to the first principal component, as we have seen in the graph, it has next amount of information which is not there in the first one. That means the information content in principal component 1 is unique, and information content in principal 2 or component 2 is also unique. And so on, the amount of information goes on reducing in the subsequent principal component analysis, but each one has its own unique information. So you will see that the first three components have maximum amount of information, and there is very small amount of information from principal component 4 onwards if you have more bands of data. So obviously when we make a composite, we combine the first three components in composite image and we interpret this image. Here you will not have a standard interpretation key because your the amount of correlation in each band will depend on your principal components will depend upon the amount of correlation in your original bands. So your new principal components or principal component images will be different in different scenes. Okay. So this is the second category of enhancement. The third category of multi-band transformation is fusion. Now fusion I have tried to include here because it's a very common thing that we know that most of the satellites which are being launched nowadays, they are in operating two modes, multispectral and panchromatic mode. You know, panchromatic mode is a black and white image which has high spatial resolution. Multispectral mode has color information associated with it. It's a multispectral data. It has better spectral resolution, we say, but its spatial resolution is low. And normally we have seen that most of the equation that has been put on most of the sensors is if panchromatic sensor is 1 meter, the multispectral is 4 times low. That means 4 meter. If panchromatic sensor is 0.5, the multispectral is 2 meters. So that is the ratio 1:4, which is generally there between them. And the human nature is to have advantage of both high spatial and high spectral resolution. We fuse the two images. We want panchromatic image and color. That means panchromatic image and color. What do I mean? Panchromatic image is a black and white image only. It has high spatial resolution. So I wanted high spatial resolution image in color. So I combine the effect of panchromatic and multispectral image using a technique called as image fusion. There are different algorithms. So here I am showing a 1 meter Dehradun city image with clock tower, with Gandhi Park and so on. So this is a panchromatic image, 1 meter spatial resolution. The multispectral is 4 times lower spatial resolution, that is 4 meter. And I wanted my features to have very clear boundaries. So I used image fusion technique and I have the spatial resolution image in high spectral information content. So it's merged or fused or pan sharpened, different techniques it is called. So these are the three different categories of image enhancement techniques that we have discussed today. That's all.